Hello, my name is Shulamit, and I'm the creator of the MetaSounds process. Every Sunday at noon, I host a Zoom meeting for us to explore wisdom teachings and experience the healing power of MetaSounds. These meetings are made possible by generous donors. Please help this site thrive by liking and subscribing, and please join our newsletter at greatoctave.com to receive notices of our events. Welcome, everyone, on this beautiful summer's day in the Northeast. I want to talk about happiness. It's so elusive. And I want to talk about being happy even in difficult times and challenging times. We're a mass of contradictions. We are constructed as a mass of contradictions. I know that we can get really down on ourselves for being judgmental. People say, don't be so judgmental. But it's pretty difficult because actually that's the way we're constructed. We have an aspect of our nature that is very judgmental. Now, this is useful. This is not bad. You have to be able to tell the difference between right and wrong, between good and bad people, between dangerous and non-dangerous situations, between something that you might want to get involved with or not get involved with. You have to have judgment. The difficulty with judgment occurs only when it goes a little too far, I should say. It kind of becomes harsh. It makes a decision about something or someone, and then, in a sense, laces into it and feels that the person or the situation or the project or whatever is so contemptible that it deserves to be eliminated from the face of the earth, that the person, the perpetrator, whatever, should be killed or maligned. I mean, if we're not in a position to send people to the electric chair, we may just spread bad stories about them or wish them ill in a very extreme way. And sometimes we feel this is good, right? Because we're right. We have right on our side, and they're wrong. And we're better than they are because we see that, and we have discipline, and we would never act that way, or whatever our story is. There's a big problem with judgment because if you allow it to go unchecked, that is to say, unleavened by another aspect of our nature, which is love, then it begins to make you sour, to make you mean-spirited, to make you unhappy, not to speak of what it does to the other person. And if you go so far as to act publicly against someone or do something that's an attempt at retribution or trying to make another person suffer, that doesn't go, I was about to say unnoticed, but that's not quite the right word. There is such a thing as consequences for our actions. There is such a thing as karma. When we do something, we open ourselves up in a way to get the reward of that. So if you're doing something good, then you might be rewarded, maybe not immediately, but at some point in the future. And the reverse is also true. And there are many, many examples of this. I'm thinking of a story of a woman I know from Iran who was forced out of the country, but her father had been a very successful merchant. And as part of his philanthropy, he used to have a space and a table for people to come and take things for free. I think he made clothing or something like that. And so he served the larger community. He was a Jew, so when things went south in Iran, he began to be persecuted, and they had a horrible time. The father passed away, and at some point, the daughter, due to certain unfortunate circumstances, was brought before a judge in Iran to be judged either guilty or not, or punished in some way. And the evidence was definitely against her. She did something that was illegal. That is, she sent money out of the country. And the judge remembered her father and remembered his good deeds and his charity and let her go. So this was not an immediate result of the good deed. It took a few years, but it did result in something. And there are many stories like this. There are also other stories where people don't seem to be rewarded for their good deed. But in that case, I would suggest a longer view, because sometimes it takes time for things to work out. But the opposite is also true. If you spread gossip and lies about people, if you malign them, if you seek revenge, that comes back to hurt you. So if you take a situation of a person in power, a person who is alienated and angered a lot of people, but they're very powerful, so they're insulated. They have bodyguards. They have many, many, many protections that the so-called average person does not have. But those people can live in great fear of retribution or of assassination. And that includes the all-powerful leader of Korea, who walks as if he's got to have eyes behind his head because so many people want to kill him, and many other examples that could be given of world leaders. And on a simpler level, of people who have lived only for money and power and who somehow managed to raise children that can't stand them. So nobody gets off free, is what I'm saying. Nobody gets off free. So what is the, I don't know if secret is the right word. We are being constantly bombarded with outside attacks that we don't anticipate, changes in the economic situation, changes in relationships. That's on a sort of an average level of what happens to each of us throughout life. Not to speak of political environments and anger and violence and so forth. These things happen to us. And in addition to that, we are trying to lead our lives, make a living, support our families and so forth. And we're not always aware of how judgment and fear direct us in such a deep way that we shut ourselves off from the light. So, for example, if you practice, and it takes practice, your judgment against a person who disagrees with you politically, or somebody who has acted against you, and leaven that with love, in the sense of saying it's really developing a compassionate practice. So what is compassion? It's not feeling what the other person is feeling. That's empathy. And that's something where you really get closer and begin to experience the pain of the person you're trying to help. It's very limiting because you can only help so many people if you're doing that. Compassion is different. Compassion basically says, I recognize you because I'm a human being. And I have violent thoughts, and I have anger, and I have the desire for revenge, and I've acted like a horse's ass. I've done all of those things. And so I see that humanity in you. I don't approve of it. I don't think it's a good thing. I'm not going to hang around with you because I find you very nasty. I'm going to keep my distance because I think you're dangerous. That's all okay. But to look at that person and to understand a little bit of your shared humanity, because the key thing in spiritual life is not that you have a revelation or feel, a light being coming toward you. It is the recognition that everything is connected. Everything is connected. We are all connected, not only to each other, but to nature and to all the animals and all the beings on the earth. And that if we are going to lead a happier life, or if we're going to be able to go through difficult times with a certain degree of grace, which I'm not saying it's easy and it's not always possible, we need to remember that. We need to remember to take our own judgment and soften it with a kind of caring that says, I recognize you. I see that you're going through some hard times. I see that you have gone through some hard times. I see that you're blind. I see that you're ignorant. I see that you're acting out of ignorance. I see that you're acting out of blindness, and feel some compassion for that, because that's also you. So in the political situation we find ourselves in right now, there are people who are very much have very different opinions than the opinions we hold. And they can be angering and violent in their rhetoric. But they also hook us. They hook us in the sense that they get us so angry that we respond with our own violent rhetoric. If you want to be happier, if you really want to have a better life, you have to start infusing love into your judgment and in the way that you walk in the world. You have to be careful. It's a fine line. It's like an artistic balance. It's not that you're required to not only feel that, but to have an expectation that things will turn out differently, because your compassion, while wonderful, may not solve the problem. That person that you're dealing with, whether it's a child or a sibling or somebody at work, they have their own stuff that they're going through, and they may not be amenable to your point of view or to your kindness. But it is going to change the quality of your life, and it's so subtle and so gentle that it actually does have an impact. It's not the kind of impact you can get by shouting and scaring people, but it's a very big impact, subtly, and because it is the thing that carries us through. Love is the only thing that carries us through, because if you look at life, if you look at your own life, if I look at my life, there are things that are incomprehensible. There are hardships that I've suffered, that you've suffered, that are incomprehensible. There are sometimes no solutions, no stories that you can tell yourself that address the sorrow and the suffering that not only you have suffered, but the suffering in the world. But love can do it. Love can allow you to give you the gift of understanding that you don't understand anything. Certainly you don't understand everything. And allow you the kind of grace to deal with kindness, even though people can be maddening, even though they can do very cruel things. So it's a leavening. We don't only have judgment as part of our nature, we have love as part of our nature. And when we mingle the two of them, we can discriminate, which is the ability to judge without harshness. That doesn't mean that if a serial killer who has done horrible things comes before a judge, the judge says, I have compassion for you because of your very abusive background, so, go free and do your thing. I mean, that's preposterous, right? He still has to pass judgment. He still has to protect society. That's his job. But he doesn't have to do it through anger and hatred. So again, this is an art form. Being a human being is an art form. It's not just balancing judgment and love, but attempting to balance our spiritual nature, which is very real, with our physical needs and desires, which is also very real, and with our emotions, which are extremely rich and abundant. That's a balancing act too. because sometimes it feels as if the spiritual is at war with the physical or vice versa. So it's an art form, but it's possible if you learn to balance it, and everything in nature seeks balance. Everything in us seeks balance. We need to balance ourselves. Sometimes we can't do it, and we find it in our partners. We find it in people who have attributes that we don't have. And we do the same for them in an ideal situation. But you can do a lot. You can do a lot about learning about yourself, being kind to yourself, because actually we're really pretty horrible to ourselves and very judgmental and mean, and sometimes about very trivial things. It's almost as if we think if we don't keep ourselves in line, God knows what we will do. So it's a practice. It's not instinctive. Instinct is to push away or to fight. It's flight or fight. That's our instinct as animal creatures. You have to stop and pause and think and make a decision to be kind and to be loving and to feel compassion. This practice, if you do it over time, will bring you much greater happiness and allow you to endure very difficult circumstances with a greater amount of grace. I feel that this is very important for this age that we're in, and that's going to become more chaotic and more frightening and more difficult in the coming years. It is possible, and it has been done by people throughout the ages, for people to remain calm, centered, loving, and kind, and carry a principle forward. But when the wind changes and it all blows over, that's what's going to be left standing. Love. So I'm going to make sounds to you now. As you can hear, my voice is scratchy. I don't know whether it's allergies or what, but I'll do the best I can. And it's a reminder to you, too, that when you're doing sound practices, you don't have to be perfect. This is from the heart. This is from the heart. And so therefore, even if you're not Pavarotti or Maria Callas or some great singer, your voice can be heard as your innermost being is heard and noticed. So sit comfortably and relax. Thank you for joining me today and being part of our community. I invite you to join us every Sunday at noon Eastern Time for the full live experience. Wishing you a wonderful week, and I look forward to connecting with you soon. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Visit greatoctave.com for more details about these webcasts, our newsletter, donations, and more.